Hey, good morning, everybody. This is Jamie Siegel, Global Director of Licensing at the Open Invention Network, here with our latest installment of interviews of OIN members that I think will be impactful on your decision on joining OIN. And today we have with us Fred Mao. Fred is the Intellectual Property Counsel for Toyota and sits on the OIN board for many years, so he knows more about OIN than most. And I thought that asking him a few questions would be very helpful to everybody. Good morning. Thanks for joining us, Fred.
Oh, my pleasure, Jamie. Thank you for having me.
Fantastic. So let's just jump right in to make this efficient. So why don't you give us a quick snapshot of why did Toyota join OIN in the first place?
Okay. Well, first and foremost, I think Toyota was well ahead of the curve with a lot of the research and development activities that we were doing. And very early on, we recognized a lot of the benefits to open source software. Can really save costs, promote efficiencies, and really developing a lot of source code. And as everybody knows, our vehicles are becoming more and more like computers on wheels by the moment. And also, especially looking at across our R&D facilities now compared to even like 15 years ago when I joined Toyota, we're having more and more software engineers surrounding us and joining us by the moment. So it's very important to learn as much as we can about open source and also integrate it into our R&D culture as much as possible. But a couple of the main reasons why we joined OIN, and also a lot of other initiatives such as Open Chain and some other Linux Foundation initiatives, is really number one, first and foremost, is to alleviate risk. Really, everything we do around intellectual property is to pave the way for our products into commerce. We want to make things go as smoothly as possible, and by trying to identify risk and then start taking on initiatives to mitigate the risk is very important for us. So I think through OIN, we're able to identify a number of risk areas and then collaboratively start coming up with solutions that not only benefit us, but benefits the industry as a whole. And I think that was a really big selling point, I guess, for the Toyota when we joined. Secondly, I think it's also very important that we continue to be involved as a primary member in the open source community. As I mentioned, we're doing more and more research and development with respect to software, and open source software is a primary component of that. So we essentially have a duty to not only use it, but since we are using it, we need to contribute to the community as well and make it better for all those. So we don't want to be a taker, we want to be a contributor, and that not only is I guess donating or contributing open source software, but also taking our role to preserve the impact and the benefits of open source for all.
Boy, that's a great answer, Fred. Thanks so much for that thoughtful response. I would note that since Toyota joined, you actually went a step further by contributing to join the founding member group at OIN to support the organization, and so thank you for that. And since Toyota joined, I think it was back in 2017, right? Virtually the entire global OEM automaker industry has joined OIN, recognizing that open source is important to the overall industry. It's really, as someone who's had connections with the auto industry for many years, it's really amazing to me to see just how quickly open source and automotive grade Linux has really grabbed hold and is in production vehicles. Just astounding, and in large part to Toyota's leadership on that. So thanks. So second question, what are the main benefits that Toyota sees as a member of OIN? I know you mentioned risk mitigation. So as that, risk mitigation is always a hot topic. It often comes with a big price tag to mitigate risk, and OIN, of course, is free. So if you could just touch on a couple of the key benefits that you've seen as a member of OIN, that'd be great.
Yeah, certainly. Well, there's a number of threateners in the industry, especially with respect to open source. And by really helping to identify them and seeing some ways to sort of mitigate or even remove risk in these areas, it really helps us drive initiatives. You mentioned automotive grade Linux. This is something that was very important for us. And I think OIN was a big help, especially in moving that forward, especially getting in a number of our vehicle platforms and also helping to gain wide acceptance by the industry. So there's always going to be a number of issues that arise, and it's much easier, especially on a platform as big as open source software, to get more members involved, so we can bounce ideas off of each other and even identify different ways that we can solve, come together to bring some solutions that really touch on all aspects of the auto industry. And Automotive grade Linux is an important one, but I can tell you there's going to be a number of other initiatives coming as well. And it's good to be up and well in front of these types of topics before they come up, because I'd rather much be proactive than reactive on these types of issues.
Great, thanks. Good answer. Final question for today. So the automotive industry is somewhat unique in the world in terms of your supply chain structure. Companies like Toyota and other OEMs are essentially systems integrators to bring together all the components provided by their supply chains. We've made tremendous penetration in terms of the OEM suppliers at the top of the chain, and now OIN's reaching out to a lot of the supply chain. So what would you share to those in the supply chain that would be watching this video as far as a reason why they should consider joining Open Invention Network, even if they may only be making components that don't incorporate software? Why should they join OIN?
Very, very good question, Jamie. Well, number one, we have, Toyota has a huge supply chain, and we're only as strong as those that we work with as well. So we need a very strong sort of collaboration between not only Toyota, and the tier ones, tier twos, tier threes. Everybody needs to come together, because software is becoming a more and more important aspect of all our vehicle platforms. There's a significant amount of open source involved. And also, even looking at open source software, that's one big issue. But with a lot of the other initiatives that are downstream are going to be coming along pretty soon, such as RISC-V, having open source hardware. How is that going to be handled? I mean, that's something I know we're discussing now, but there's a lot of issues that are out there for us to discuss, and it's really a culture. And it's so it's not really a group of companies coming together to really promote open source, but it's really showing that everybody's really buying into the culture, becoming part of it. And like I mentioned before in one of the earlier questions, it's not about using open source, it's about contribution back to the community for the benefit of all. And that's really what we're looking at. And we have so many suppliers that touch on different aspects of our vehicle, and I think there is opportunities for many of them to get involved and actually help push the needle a little bit in the right direction. And as you mentioned, it is the cost. There really is no cost, right, to join. And so it seems to me to be a win-win situation for all.
It's almost like if you have daughters and they're out selling Girl Scout cookies, and they go out to your friends and neighbors, and even if your friends and neighbors don't actually like cookies, it's important for them to buy those Girl Scout cookies just to show support of that organization, and to show a commonality in terms of cultural views of things that are important to a neighborhood or to an industry.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, good point, buddy. In this situation, the cookies would be for free, right?
Yeah, exactly. You don't even have to chalk up the $5 for the cookies to join OIN.
Right.
All right, thank you so much, Fred. It was really helpful. I think that a lot of people are going to find this interview very helpful to help their decision process, and it's always great to hear from our members directly. So have a great day, and thanks for helping out with this.
All right, sounds good. Take care, Jamie. Thank you.